Detroit Den 313. We're back. Stephen Will talking that Detroit Lions football. Before we get started, you know what to do. Bang that subscribe button and do not forget the bell icon so you don't miss any of our new content. Steve, talk to him.
We're going to get into another list. We're slowly kind of giving you guys little breadcrumbs. I want to see if some people could pick up on what we're going to do in our mock draft. I don't think it's going to be hard to figure out, but we talked some wide receivers today. This episode, we're going to get into some edge rushers. Keyword being edge rushers. So we're not going to be talking D tackles. We're going to mix that in later on down the road. But again, disclaimer, we are trying our best to keep this realistic as to who the Detroit Lions could possibly take. So there's some guys that probably won't be on the list that might be number one overall. There's probably some guys on the list that you like more than us. That's fine. It's a hard list to make when there's this many edge rushers to narrow it down to 5. So, William, first and foremost, let's ask a question. How big of a need do you think edge rusher is for the Detroit Lions?
Man, I got to answer that question with being honest. I have no idea. Because if you're going to tell me that Marcus Davenport is going to show up and ball out this season, then it's not that big of a deal. Marcus Davenport is a fairly young guy. He's an athletic freak, 4'5", 40. He's what, 6'6", 6'5"? I mean, he's a dude. So if you're going to tell me that he's going to ball out and James Houston is going to take a step forward, now, on this show, I've given James Houston a hard time, but let's not get it twisted. I'm hoping and praying year 3, this guy takes a step forward and he steps into what everybody's hoping that he is. But if you're telling me those two are taking a step forward, I'm going to tell you that it's not a big deal. But if you're telling me that James Houston is going to just be a guy that shows glimpses and Marcus Davenport is going to play half the season, then I'm going to tell you we need one real bad. So I guess the answer is truly, I don't know. How you feel about it?
I agree with everything you said. I just don't want to put all my faith into Marcus Davenport because he's a freak. He's an athlete. He's incredible. My only question is, what's he wearing on Sundays or game days? Is he wearing sweatpants or is he wearing pads? That's the big question. So until we get that fixed, I think, or until I have an answer to that, I think that defensive end edge rushers is the number one need for the Detroit Lions. So there's a breadcrumb for you guys. So who you got at number 5?
Excuse me, guys, while I die. I'm over here just trying not to choke. But at my number 5 position for the edge rushers, I have none other than the Michigan man himself. By Michigan, I mean Southfield, Michigan, not U of M, Darius Robinson.
Wow.
Yeah, Darius Robinson, man, we haven't talked about these guys, so if we have some similars, that's one of the things, too. Before I even get into it, I want you guys to know this. We do not do 87 takes. We get on here, we talk football, and we post it. So unless something catastrophic happens, you guys get it raw and uncut, and we don't talk about what we're going to talk about before we come on here outside of the topic. We don't get a rundown like, hey, I'm going to say this. So
no collaboration.
No collaboration. So I have no idea what his list is. So if it ends up being the same, so be it. But Southfield, Darius Robinson, man, the guy wants to be a Lion. He's got pictures of him with, with Nick Fairley, I believe, back in the day. He was a Lions fan growing up. He's a physical freak, man. Dude's almost 300 pounds. First season at edge rusher was last season. He looked pretty good. He's been somebody that has taken me on a bit of an emotional roller coaster throughout this draft process. When I first was watching all of the film and all of the guys, he was a guy that I didn't love. Now, as I sit back and we're a couple weeks away from the draft and I've gotten to watch him over and over again and dig into some of these guys' game film a little bit deeper, I'm mid on him. I'm mid. I could see why we would grab him. I think his ceiling is crazy, but I feel like that floor could be problematic too. So that being said, Darius Robinson, I got in that 5th slot because I don't even know exactly what we're getting outside of a guy that's going to set a hell of an edge. Steve, how do you feel about Darius Robinson?
I love him about as much as I love Al-Qaeda. Just not a huge fan.
Whoa.
Yeah, just not a huge fan. Not full disclaimer. Darius Robinson, not even on my top 5. I look at the tape his tape doesn't wow me. It's not sexy. It's not flashy like a lot of other defensive linemen or defensive ends / outside linebackers. I've seen defensive tackles that we'll talk about later down the road that have way better tape and are more flashy to me.
Yeah.
He didn't wow me at the combine. I don't know. I don't think he would even be on a lot of people's radar if it weren't for a lot of these NFL Detroit Lions beat writers having him in so many mock drafts. I'm just being honest. If you watch the tape, please tag me in some highlights where he just wows you. Because I've been searching the depths of hell trying to find it.
I could get you some snippets where he wows me.
And someone had the audacity to compare him to JJ Watt, and I think that's when I was just like, all right, this guy, I'm done with him. JJ Watt, that's
a sin.
Yeah, it really is one of the best pass rushers of all time. I don't know. He's just not sexy to me. He's 285 pounds. How explosive is he going to be from the edge? I don't know. It's just not my cup of tea, I guess. I could be wrong, but I don't know.
I like what Dan Campbell said about just setting an edge that sends the quarterbacks back to Aidan Hutchinson. I think that's something that Darius Robinson definitely could do. I think he's got some violent hands. I think that his potential is what is starting to grow on me, very similar to a fungus. Like I don't like that it's growing on me, but for some reason I can't stop it. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. The thought of a 300-pound guy maybe potentially standing next to DJ Reader or Aleem McNeil setting the edge, that's exciting to me. But outside of that, when I watch this film, I'm with you, man. It wouldn't be a sexy pick. I would just be trusting Brad if we did make that pick. But nonetheless, his potential got him number 5 on my list. So, Steve, who's number 5 for you?
I got Washington's Braylon Trice. I like him a little bit more. ESPN has him listed as 6'4". I don't have the notes on his combine size. ESPN has him listed at 6'4", 274, which means it's probably a little off because ESPN lies about everything. But I think he was just a little bit more productive, coming from the pack. Again, he's not overly sexy to me, but I can see him having some nice moves. I see him being a little bit more athletic than Darius Robinson. I think him on the other side of Hutch would be okay. I'm not like overly thrilled about it, but I do like it as my 5th option. But I don't think he's overly sexy to me. But I mean, I'm kind of being hard on a guy who's on my top 5. But I wouldn't be disappointed if he's the pick. But I don't know if I want him at 29, somewhere in the 2nd round. If there's a trade, possibly.
Man, I tell you what, man, I go to war, man, and I go back to old Troy and go get Javon Sullivan before I'm taking Braylon Trice to me. And that shout out to him, man. An honorable mention, maybe. He didn't make my list. I don't know if he's on yours, so hopefully I'm not spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm not.
Yeah, my bad. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so yeah, man, I would go there before. There's a few guys. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Braylon Trice, unless it was later on. If he somehow slipped to like the 3rd round and we wouldn't grab him or something like that. But Braylon Trice is a guy, maybe 2nd round, I wouldn't be.
2nd round, I'm okay. Round 1, absolutely not.
Yeah, I couldn't. Braylon Trice is a guy, man. I don't like how he moves. And I don't like what Michigan did to him. I liked it that day, but you're talking about putting him on my team. I don't like how he got physically dominated by that Michigan offensive line. I don't know. It's just, I'm not a big fan of Braylon Trice unless it was a value pick. Now, if you're telling me we can take some time, maybe try to get him with whoever's training Aleem McNeil, get him a little bit more bendy and a little bit more explosive, then maybe. But outside of that, no, it's no for me for Braylon.
I think Terrell Williams, the new defensive line coach, if you got to stand on Braylon Trice, within a couple years, Braylon Trice could be really good. But again, round 1 for me, no. Somewhere in the 2nd round, if the Lions trade back for some reason, I'm more okay with it there. But I don't know. I don't really want him to be my 1st overall pick for the Detroit Lions. But
yeah, I'm with
you. It's not really up to me. Who you got at number 4?
Man, lack of production is what I have at number 4.
I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, lack of production. Tremendous upside, tremendous explosion, tremendous combine, tremendous moments on the football field, which is more, I don't give a darn about the combine. It's fun to watch, but there were some tremendous moments that he had over there in Happy Valley out there. Chop Robinson, man, the kid, he's an athlete. He's an athlete. He's a guy I think that could be a fit for the Detroit Lions at that Sam linebacker position and what we asked that Sam linebacker to do. But he's a guy that just didn't have a lot of production, and that can be concerning. Now, was that a scheme? Was that a defense issue? Or was that a Chop Robinson just not producing issue? Yet remains to be seen. But I do feel like he's got all of the physical tools to be successful in the NFL. The thought of that speed being opposite of Aidan Hutchinson really excites me. And the potential that it could be there at pick 29 and us not have to give up anything to get it also excites me. So, Steve, Chop Robinson, number 4 on my list. How do you feel about it?
Well, it's honestly crazy that we didn't collaborate, and he's also number 4 on my list. No bullshit. So I'll speak about his production because we're obviously Michigan fans. So we watched him play against Michigan. He didn't make any electric plays. I mean, let's be honest. Michigan had, in my opinion, the number 1 offensive line in the country. I mean, I know that technically went to Washington's offensive line, but Joe Moore award winners 2 years in a row, tried to go for 3, didn't get it. He was pretty darn close a lot of times to making a play. Now, I know pretty darn close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, but we're talking about a guy who could get pressures, who wasn't really featured on Penn State's defense like Micah Parsons was when he was there. I don't think they blitzed him up the middle enough. They kind of just solely relied on him to blitz the edge. He was pretty close to getting JJ a couple times. And what I saw him doing a lot, I went back and rewatched some of the film. What he does is when he's getting close to the quarterback, he's looking for the football. He's not just looking to tackle you or get a sack. He's looking to get a turnover. He's looking to get the ball back to his offense. I like Chop Robinson. I don't think he was featured the right way at Penn State. I think he could come here and be very good. Like I said, I'd like to see him used more like a Micah Parsons. I don't think he'll ever have the production. We're talking about Micah Parsons is being talked about as one of the greatest linebackers of all time. I don't know about that, but I think Chop Robinson, if he's utilized the right way, could be very, very productive. Just blitz, flush someone to Aidan, or sometimes you use Aidan, flush someone to Chop. It's just a nice little piece we could have on defense for our pass rush.
Yeah, I'm with it.
Number 3, William.
Number 3 for me, man, and this might be a little bit controversial, man, because a lot of people don't have him ranked this high, but or I shouldn't say a lot of people don't have him ranked this high. A lot of people don't have him ranked above Chop Robinson. But when I'm looking at not the pajamas, when I'm looking at football, when I'm looking at fit, when I'm looking at ceiling and floor, Chris Braswell. Chris Braswell is a guy that I think he didn't run all the sexy numbers. Right? He didn't blow anybody away at the combine. He wasn't, the top of those lists, but he's a guy, when you watch the film, he's a problem. He's a problem. I think that he's a guy that would fit because he's going to come into the NFL and just be a solid starter. He's going to be one of those guys to where you don't even know he played in the game because he made a play here and play there. But other than that, he was just doing his job. I think he sets a great edge. I think that he has a nice power move, or a bull rush power. And I think he's got a very nice long arm. I think that you put Chris Braswell in with the rest of our group, and I think that he turns into an awesome rotational piece in the beginning and then steps forward into being a key player for the Detroit Lions defense. How you feel about Chris Braswell?
I like him a lot. Not on my top 5, but I'd say right now I wouldn't be mad. And I know he's a guy you had in one of your our last mock draft, I think in round 2. I like him in round 2 a whole lot. And I've told you before, I'm on an island out here. I'm living all by myself where I'm watching what Brad Holmes is doing. I'm paying attention to the Brad Holmes movement. Yeah. What nobody does know is that I secretly implanted a Apple tracker on Brad Holmes, and I know every move. I know exactly what he's doing at every time. I can't tell you what he's thinking, but I can tell you where he's at. Yeah. And I know he's been at the University of Alabama quite a bit. Quite a bit. He's been there often. He's been to the combine. He's been to their pro day instead of Michigan's, which I think was a tall tale sign that something's going down with the University of Alabama in this draft.
I told you what it is.
I think it's Kool-Aid McKinstry. It could be Chris Braswell. I don't know, but I like him. I think he would be a damn good fit in our team. And I think he'd have a good impact as a rookie.
Yeah. No, I think he would too, man. I think he would be a great guy for us to draft, man. And I think that when it comes time for contract time, he's a guy that wouldn't break the bank for his second contract, which is something that I also like because we got to start thinking about these things, man. Like I said before, those sexy picks, if we're drafting a sexy receiver, man, that ends up producing and turning out good, these people are going to have to get paid, man. These players are going to have to get their money, and it's got to make sense. So I think that a guy like that, he's a good fit, blue collar, grit guy, plays hard every single down. If you watch him, you watch the game film and not the highlights, and I think that he would just be a solid fit.
At number 3 for me, I thought you were going to steal my guy, but I got him at number 3. I'm not overly sure about this guy, but when you said Michigan, man, I thought you were going to go with Marshawn Kneeland from Western Michigan. That's who I got. Not very productive. And again, I'll say this right now, not a first-round pick, not a second-round pick, but I think in the third round, he could be one of the biggest steals of the draft. I think 6'3", 275. I really like him in the third round or later. What do you think, Will?
I think that it seems like he's got momentum gaining. And I don't know if that's just Michigan momentum or if that's everywhere, but I've seen him in a lot of mock drafts and I've seen him in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that he'll be there at 3, in the third round. But he's a guy that I like, man. I don't have him in my top 5, but I do like his game. I do like what he did as far as the drills. I'll be honest, guys. We don't come on here and lie. He's not a guy that was on my radar prior to a couple people mentioning him and then seeing some of his times. And I'm like, man, who's this guy? What's up with him? And then I started watching some tape. But yeah, man, I definitely like his game. I like what I've saw of him so far. And I'm gonna do some more digging into him to see if he's a guy that I truly want to see. Because I'll be honest, when I started watching the film, his times in the Pajama Olympics against what I was seeing in film didn't match up to me, and he seemed a little stiff to me too. But in my defense and his defense, I haven't watched enough film to give a true assessment on how I feel about him. I'm gonna dig into him some more, but nonetheless, I think he's got a lot of potential from what I've seen.
I could just see this being like one of those Brad Holmes picks that kind of just shocks us. Just something that kind of comes out of left field. If you're not a diehard football fan, you probably don't know who Marshawn Kneeland is. And I'm in the same boat. I saw a lot of people starting to mention him in some of our other videos. I was like, all right, I got to start looking into this kid. He's getting mentioned by several people in several different episodes. Right in our backyard. I think Brad Holmes is phenomenal at scouting in our backyard. I think he'd be a nice fit. Again, I'm not looking at round 1 or 2. I'm looking at round 3. I think that could be a steal for Brad Holmes, and that's what he does. He goes into this draft and finds these gems. There's a reason he had the best draft class of the year in 2023 and was executive of the year. It's for moves like this, like underrated moves. And again, put him with Terrell Williams, give him a year or 2 to develop. I think he could be a very nice fit down the road. As a rookie, I'm not sure. Maybe he gets a little spot duty, but I think down the road he could be a nice sneaky little pick.
You know what's great about him, Steve?
He doesn't have to travel too far to get to Detroit Lions games on Sundays.
Oh no, we pick up his stuff and move his stuff. That's not even a big deal. But he had a visit. The Lions did visit with him, so he's on their radar for sure, man.
Yeah, like a lot of Alabama players. I think we're going to be lock and step here at 1 and 2. So who do you got at number 2?
Number 2, man. People are probably going to come for me, but at number 2, I have Jared Verse, and I have Jared Verse here because I've seen mock drafts where Jared Verse is slipping and sliding down to the 20s.
God, I hope.
And I think that striking distance, like kind of like similar to the wide receiver video. If you guys didn't check that out, make sure you go check it out. He's a guy that I think that could slip and slide into striking distance for us, and we could go get him if we're super high on him. So I think that Jared Verse is a guy. If you watch the show, you know these Florida State guys. We like quite a few of these Florida State guys. Whatever they're doing out there, whatever they're drinking out there, just send some of that our way. But he's a guy, man, that I think is tremendously explosive. He may be the most explosive edge in this year's draft. Not saying the best, but I think that he may be the most twitched up guy coming off of that edge. Now, do I think that he needs to add some more tools to his game? I do. But I think that he could be an absolute problem across from Aidan Hutchinson. And there's only one guy that I want more than I want Jared Verse. And I know that you guys know that I'm not going to say Dallas Turner. So think about that. I'll let you sit in that. Steve, how do you feel about Jared Verse?
I don't want to spill too much, William. I mean, I'll just go with my number 2. Hint, hint. Number 2 for me is Laitu Latu. A lot of people are worried about his neck. Not worried about it at all. Not worried about it for even a second. I think this kid is the definition of grit. Like, this was a kid who was medically retired, fought to get back on the football field, got cut by Washington medically when he, had to get that fusion surgery. They didn't want to risk the chances of him being permanently paralyzed. So they kind of medically retired him. He got a second opinion, got some work done, went to UCLA and did nothing but blow up. Yeah. I think as a peer defensive end, 6'5", 265, 13 sacks for UCLA. And we're talking some sacks against Caleb Williams. Guess what? That's a guy we're going to be facing probably several years down the road when the Bears draft him, because we all know what's coming. We need a guy I'm not saying we need a guy who's familiar with Caleb Williams, but it's something nice to have, isn't it? Isn't a little lace up your sleeve to say, hey, I played this guy in college. I know what his strengths are. I know what his weaknesses are. And on top of that, he produces. I think that's something that's not even being talked about with Laitu Latu for the Lions. Like, this guy has a firsthand look at a player we're going to be seeing for hopefully the next 3 years, but realistically, maybe 10. Who knows?
Yeah. Steve.
I know he's your number 1. I already know, William.
Steve.
William.
I've went through this draft frontwards, backwards, and sideways. And I know I'm probably saying too much, but I can't contain myself. You guys know that I'm in love with Edrin Cooper. Edrin Cooper's he's a dude to me. Like, I really romanticize having him on the Detroit Lions. Throughout this process, Jackson Powers Johnson, Xavier Liggett, the list. There's been a couple of guys. Not to disrespect Braden Fisk, he's another one. Rukaroa. There's guys in this draft that I just love. But as I've dug into day after day, film after film, hour after hour of just watching game film, highlights, interviews, Laitu Latu is, I want him bad.
And I think he's realistic at 29. I do.
I challenge you guys. I challenge you guys that watch this show. Outside of Laitu Latu's neck, show me a reason why he's not the number 1 edge rusher in this draft. The dude has move after move after move. I love him in space. I love when he's the read defensive end and they're trying to read what he's going to do, and he just plays the quarterback and the running back. I like when he drops back in the coverage. I like what I saw out of the combine and his athletic ability to be able to change directions. Listen, me and Steve talked about it yesterday. I was telling him I was watching. I took it upon myself to watch.
Don't fully spill the beans. I think I know where you're going.
I'm not going to, but I fully took it upon myself to rewatch all of the Lions games. And I started thinking, like, man, where will these guys fit into what we do offensively and defensively? And there's some receivers that I think fit right into what we do. And we're going to hold on to it. We're going to hold on to it for our mock drafts, but there's some defenders that fit right into certain things that we do. So I challenge you guys to just look at Laitu Latu and tell me if he doesn't have the best moves out of anyone in this entire draft class. He's got moves, then counter moves, then counter moves to the counter moves. He talks about in his interviews how he's studying films about guys' punch, about their hand placement. Are they high punchers or low punchers? And what moves am I going to do to counteract whoever I'm lined up against? He is out there. He's not playing checkers. He's playing chess. To me, he's the number 1 player in this draft for me right now. Now, we got a couple weeks. I'm still watching film. I'm still digging. But I want him bad.
Sorry, the only reason he's number 2 for me, and I'll just obviously Jared Verse was my number 1, so I didn't want to. Obviously we just flipped a coin.
Yeah,
like it was that close for me. Like I think Latu, and Jared Verse are the 2 best. Jared Verse is probably going to get drafted before, but I have seen Latu getting slid down a little bit. And I think you're right. I just want to oh my gosh, it does things to me.
Yeah.
When I think about Latu, DJ Reader, Ali McNeil, Aidan Hutchinson, it's 3rd and 8 for the offense that we're facing. You don't have long to get through your reads, get through your progressions. These guys have speed. Aidan Hutchinson's got some speed. Ali McNeil's got a little speed for a big guy. Latu has a high motor. I don't see how our defensive line isn't vastly improved with either Latu or Jared Verse. I don't care which one it is.
Yeah.
Brad Holmes, if they're both available somehow, flip a coin, whatever it lands on, I'm honestly good with. When I was doing this list, and I told you, I was like, I'm down to 3. I know who my other 2 are. I just don't know which order to put them in. 1 and 2, it's really 1A, 1B for me. It's not 1 and 2. So Latu, 6'5", Aidan Hutchinson on the other side, 6'7". Good luck. Yeah. Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah. I man, it just the thought of it is it's got me. I'm gonna sleep well tonight just thinking about it. The draft can't get here soon enough.
Less than 3 weeks.
Man, I've got it boiled down to probably about 5 guys that I want at pick 29. And I know that's a show that we're gonna be doing moving forward. So guys, sway me in the comments, sway Steve in the comments, not just about Latu or Verse. I mean, just who are your guys at 29? Who's your guys? Who's your favorite guys in this draft? Who do you want to see the Lions select that could potentially be there? Because we're going to be putting out our mock drafts and we're going to be putting out who do you love? And I'm pretty dialed in.
Yeah, guys, leave some comments down below. Let us know who your top 5 pass rushers are. Now, we try to keep this defensive end, outside linebackers. We got some names for some D tackles too. Don't worry. That's going to be coming on later down the road. So leave some comments, hit that like button. If you're new here, stick around, subscribe. We'll be back later with some more content.
Peace.